What is up, y'all? Welcome back to Rip the Net, bringing you sports and culture once again. My name is Eric.
I'm Dre.
And I'm Alexi.
And excited to be with y'all once again. How are y'all doing this weekend?
Pretty good. Not much going on, really. Like we talked about this a bit before the pod, but not much going on in NBA. International break for soccer, so a couple things happening, but I'm really into club football, so a bit of a slow weekend, but not bad.
A bit slow, but good for some good old media consumption. We got Prime TV on nowadays, so got Severance, Invincible, Daredevil, White Lotus. So I've been enjoying that.
Interesting. Speaking of TV, have y'all checked out that new Sidemen, like Inside show?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
I've not heard of it once. What are you talking about?
Really? The one on Netflix you watched?
Yeah, I watched the first one too, like a year ago. But yeah, the one that's been airing on Netflix.
Interesting. I had a friend put me on. Wait, that literally dropped. Didn't like the entire season just wrap up recently? Like I feel
the finale was today.
Okay. And you watched it.
You're on top of it.
Yeah, because it's been dropping. So basically, okay, I guess I'll give some backstory for the listeners in case you don't know what we're talking about. Basically, the Sidemen last year on their YouTube channel released a show called Inside, which is basically a reality TV show where they have, I think, 12 influencers come in and they compete for a prize fund that starts at $1 million. And basically throughout the show, they're completing challenges and you can lose money in the challenges, but also there's a shop inside the house that they stay in, and you can spend money in the shop, but the prices are crazy. So they're spending like 500 pounds for a soda, or like 2,500 pounds to upgrade their meal, because they get like basic meals every day, like rice and beans or whatever. So it's a really interesting concept. They did it on their YouTube channel last year. They did like the premiere on their main channel, the finale on their main channel, and did like a release every day throughout the week on their second channel. So it's like a whole week's worth of content, and the show's like a whole week's worth of time spent in the house. And that was really successful. I was watching that live at the time. And then I guess because of how it was like a proof of concept, they took it to Netflix, and Netflix agreed, and they had a partnership with Netflix. So the season 2 has been airing over this last week on Netflix worldwide and airing every single day. And at the end of this one, which just wrapped up today as of recording, the 23rd of March, they announced in the finale they're coming out with season 1 of the US version. I guess they're going to film that soon. So it's been pretty successful.
No way. I didn't even know that last portion there. Okay, but you were on top of it. What did you think of the overall show? I feel like it gives kind of like it's a mix of a lot of things, but there was I feel like some fear factor in there. Even one of the games, crazy, like literally like a rip off from Silent Library. It's just like a series of game shows, plus like you add in the fact that they're all living with each other, and it's kind of like a roulette when it comes to elimination. So what did you enjoy the season, or how did you feel?
Yeah, I really like it. So it's funny you say that, like the rip off of Silent Library, because basically the concept is that I think there's another show in the UK called Locked In, which like also features a bunch of influencers like inside a house. I think the Sidemen saw that and were like, okay, we can do that better. And then on their main channel, some of the videos they do a lot of game show type videos on their channel, and they've done Silent Library. Like all the things they're doing in these challenges are basically smaller versions of like Sidemen videos that they've done. So Sidemen had done, I think they've done 2 different Silent Library videos in the past. And it's funny because in season 1, that challenge was called Silent Library, if I remember correctly. And then I'm guessing because it's on Netflix, there might have been a rights issue with like the original Silent Library, which I think is actually Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. I'm guessing that's why they called it, like, I forget what they called it in this season, like something with silence in the name, or like don't make a sound or something like that. It's funny that you say that, 'cause it literally is like the Silent Library concept that they've done in the past, but I think they legally had to change it, the name. But I really enjoyed it personally. Well, the viewers won't know this, but like I watch Big Brother. I like shows like this, like reality shows where it's about competing and social strategy and things like that. And I think this one, the concept is very interesting because you have a bunch of people competing for money that don't necessarily need the money. Not like obviously any one of them will take an extra however many 100K, but you see them spending crazy amounts of money. Like they spent 50K for like a group feast or something, or like 30K for a birthday party. Like it was like crazy stuff. And you can only really get this by throwing in these massive personalities who aren't like desperate for the cash. I think it creates an interesting dynamic. And I really enjoy it. I think they're hitting on something here that could be the future of reality television, because I mean, sure, the staple reality shows are always going to continue going on, but because this is kind of similar to the charity match that we talked about this in the past, because you have all these people coming in that have followings, there's a built-in audience to watch the show, including like the Sidemen audience. But then you have like Jason the Ween who's on this, who's a massive streamer now, Cinna, who's a massive streamer, DDG, massive YouTuber / streamer, and then those are just the American ones. They have Patrice Evra was on this, Alexi, you'll know. He was on this season, which is crazy.
That's a crazy person to pop up out of nowhere.
It's funny. Like, it was really surprising. And then
I
like
love this game.
Literally, he's spamming that. He was spamming it. And he came in there like, I don't even want to be known as like this Manchester United legend or whatever. Like I want to be known as a YouTuber. I guess he's starting a YouTube channel. So it's just funny that that they have all these like built-in creators. Most of the creators were UK creators. So I guess that's why they're gonna go do the US version. But I think that makes it more inherently successful than these other reality shows, which are bringing on normal people, who then afterward, most of those people are trying to take the little fame they have from the show and turn that into some social media career. But these people already have the career. Yeah, a lot of them, they take it and run. And respect to them. And then some of them, you know, they kind of fade out within a few months and they go back to their day job.
Yeah,
I think it's a successful concept.
Yeah, no, it sounds cool. I'll definitely check it out now.
Yeah, it's wrapped up so you can binge it. Yeah, what do you think, Eric?
I was gonna say I'm usually not one to like watch a lot of TV, but I think reality TV is easy because it's kind of like it's easy to binge, right? Like once you're actually hooked onto a show, it's kind of easy to continue on with it. This show, I think I was intrigued because I definitely recognized some of the names. It's interesting. Then there was other names who I was like I had heard of before but wasn't super familiar with. Like I know a few weeks ago we talked about like Cinna and like a little bit of a controversy that she was involved in. So it was, you know, it's just crazy. Like, man, this is just someone we were just talking about now. This big show, and obviously she already had a big following. But it just shows you like a lot of those names will like continue to pop up. We obviously spoke about like the Sidemen charity match recently. So I don't know. It just seemed like, oh man, like these are somewhat like these are individual / topics that I've recently heard pop up in conversation. Like I'll definitely check this out. And it's interesting. Obviously, like you said, lots of big personalities. So I have lots of opinions on the people or the contestants. Patrice, I thought was a great addition. I think he added such an interesting dynamic, and props to him because most of the contestants were in their 20s, maybe early 30s at the oldest. But for someone to be as, I guess you could say, like someone to be his age and still hold such like a pertinent role in the season and just like be such good vibes and like a well-respected person, like I don't know, he was entertaining to me, and I felt like, I don't know, he brought a lot to the show. So I'm still in the midst of watching it, so haven't watched the finale yet, but it seems interesting, so I'm excited to wrap up.
You seen most of it?
Yeah, I believe I'm like an episode and a half away. No, like 2 episodes and a half from finishing up the season.
Okay, so So you've gotten a good idea of most of the contestants by now.
Yeah.
I won't spoil
yeah.
anything, obviously. But if you had to, I know you mentioned Patrice, but we'll just make this a little mini topic while we're at it. If you had to, and maybe your opinions on them can change by the finale, I don't know. But if you had to pick like your 2 favorite contestants and then your 2 least favorite contestants based on what you've seen so far, who I don't know if you remember their names, but you could describe them too, and I could tell you.
Of course. I'll say 2 people I've been rooting for. Even though Jason hasn't had, what I will say about Jason the Ween, he hasn't been as big of a presence as I expected him to be. I thought since he's kind of on the top of the streamer world, like he would be one of the loudest voices in the season. Turns out he's kind of just like kind of in his own lane. I think he'll definitely put on a show for the camera, but I expected someone who like does streaming to kind of be on mode all the time. So I was kind of surprised to see him take a little bit more of a backseat this season. But regardless, there is a moment where, and to not spoil it for anyone who may have not watched it, the Sidemen charity match is referenced as well, and he's involved in that. So I thought that was like a really cool part of the season. That was like probably like a moment that stood out for sure. And someone else who I would say I appreciate is Cinna. I think Cinna has also been like a cool addition as well. She is also, as we've said in the past, she's also a streamer. My one gripe with her, and this applies to a few other people, but like very like people pleaser vibes, which I understand. You want to be on everyone's good side, but sometimes I'm like, all right, man, we don't need tears for everything.
Dragging it.
But you know, that's like I'm not gonna really put that against somebody. That's just more so like, man. And I'm naming those 2, but had I, because I already talked about Patrice, but Patrice would have been up there had.
Yeah, you could do 3. You could do 3 you like and 3 you don't like.
Yeah. Okay. So Jason, Sin, and Patrice, I'll definitely say I've been a fan of, and then people I am not. PK, I initially started the season liking the vibe he was bringing. I always like a little villain. I thought he brought on a good little vibe, but I also felt like I don't know. I saw as the season progressed, I feel like a lot of his true colors came out, which I didn't really appreciate. There's just some backstabbing that took place. There's just a lot of like snakiness and like sneakiness that went on, which I was not a fan of. So PK is up there. Whitney, I will say I do know from her Love Island season, and she has really disappointed me, man. I think she had a personality that worked for Love Island because you have someone who's very like blunt and direct. When you're on a dating show, you kind of need that because you need someone to call other people out if they're being a little fake, if they're, you know, just doing like sneaky stuff in their relationship, in their couple. When it comes to something like this, where it's kind of like everybody for themselves, and you have someone who clearly just like seems to is always spending money, spent mad money on a little birthday party, and then try to make it seem like, oh, I did it thinking of y'all. Like, I don't know. It just gave me it just left a very bitter taste in my mouth. And seeing how, I guess you could say, how much she controls the overall mood and like energy of the cast, I was like, she is obviously a very big personality that people follow. I just have not been a fan of the way she's moved. And she also has an alliance with PK and Maya. So I don't know. There's stuff there. And then final person, I said PK, I said Whitney. A final person, man, I hate to do this because he didn't have enough of an opportunity to really, I guess, grow on me. But Dylan, I think everyone kind of got on because they honestly just considered him to be a little bit of a boring contestant. I don't know. I kind of agree with it, but I did think, I mean, I guess this is like a mini spoiler, but it's like at the very beginning of the season, so I don't feel too bad. But like, you know, he really he really went out in a graceful manner because he ended up, I remember, adding I think 10,000 to the budget before he was booted off. But I think even though I'm speaking down on like, even though he may not have been my favorite character, I also understand in a room or in a cast full of big personalities, you do need more personalities like him that are a little bit more mellow, a little bit more laid back. But those are the three I'll name. How about you?
Yeah, it's just some interesting stuff, and I think it's definitely. I think they did a good job with casting because there are people that like you want to root for and people you don't necessarily vibe with as well. And I think you need that on a reality show, like that balance. So I agree with what you're saying about like Dylan. If I had to pick who I was rooting for, I would say George. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I was familiar with George going into it because he's been in a lot of Sidemen videos. He's like part of that UK YouTube crowd, which I'm kind of tapped into. So I already knew his personality, and I wanted to see him do well, or at least like be entertaining. So I'd say George. I'd say Jason. I never really watched much of him. Like I'd seen clips here and there, like when he had that big moment where he hit like 100,000 subs or something on Twitch. I seen like clips as he was like coming up. I never like watched extended segments of his streams or anything. I think after the Sidemen charity match, I started tapping into him a bit more because he's been in London like doing streams out there. And then leading into Inside, I watched a couple of his videos where he was like reacting to the first 2 episodes. I think Netflix allowed them to react to it. And he's kind of been growing on me. Like, not that I disliked him or anything, but I just didn't know much about him or any of that new like phase crowd. I still don't know much about most of them, but Jason recently, I can see the entertainment value in him, and I've been rooting for him on the show. And I say third, probably Millie. I have no idea who she was coming into this, and still don't really know who she is. Like, I'm not really gonna go follow her, but on the show itself, I thought she was entertaining, and she seemed chill too, which I liked. Like, especially for the UK. Considering most of these are UK creators that I don't know, other than like George, and I've heard of PK before. I heard the name, but I never even knew what he looked like. But the other ones, like, I just didn't know. She grew on me as like I don't know. The way she got along with everyone just seemed really natural, and it wasn't in any kind of cliquey type way. Like, it seemed like she genuinely got along with like everyone, especially with the people that I was rooting for. So I grew to like her. I'd say.
You sure there was no? Hold on. You sure there was no ulterior motive in your interest in Millie?
No, genuinely, I'm not trying to violate, so I'm not going to say why not. Just genuinely, there's no ulterior motive. I just put it like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's someone who there's someone who just in the middle. Like I'd say like Farah, somewhere in the middle. She really grew on me too. Not gonna just put her in the top 3, but. I think it's something interesting. Everyone on the cast says like they grew on her, which is really interesting. They consistently say that because she's super loud coming in, and like her intro package, I was like, oh, this girl looks insufferable. But then actually on the show, she seems like a really sweet girl. So she grew on me as well. And Cinna, this is also my introduction to Cinna, like similar to Jason. Like I seen clips and stuff. So seeing her on the show full time, I didn't realize. I had no idea what her personality was like, and it's curious what you're saying, like. Her being kind of a people pleaser, and first of all, also she has like that kind of scratchy like voice crack type voice. It's like always cracking, which I kind of like. I ain't gonna lie, but on a show like this, I'm saying like I don't have a problem with that in general, but on a show like this, it's like hearing that every episode constantly. I was like, it was catching me off guard. I didn't know that. I never heard her speak for like more than 5 seconds at a time. But I do want to get more into her and like that people pleaser versus villain type archetype. But I would say for the people I didn't like, Maya wasn't for me, and it's not because anything she did. I think she gets along with everyone well enough. She seems nice, but she seems to not really have any she seems to not really decide anything for herself. Like she kind of just like goes along with whatever the people in her alliance want to do. Like I don't know if she actively made any decisions where I was like, okay, I could see Maya playing. Like she's kind of just there, always has her finger in her mouth, which really like off-putting to me. I don't know if you noticed that, but once you go back and you continue watching, you'll notice she always has her finger in her mouth, and it's really like it really throwing me off. I don't even dislike her, but it just like she wasn't a character for me that really did much for me, other than like she has some kind of flirty banter with PK, but she ain't really doing nothing. Yeah,
I was gonna say, which I don't even think she did. He only pointed that out, and my friends and I were talking about this in our group chat. He pointed that out. I didn't really see it. I was like, y'all were like the first two contestants to really show up, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, y'all were gonna make small talk with each other. I don't think there was any flirting going on there. It was very clear PK had a crush on her throughout the season. So I was just like, I didn't see it. But yes, I definitely agree with you. I don't think she really didn't seem like she was kind of operating as her own person. That alliance, I really did have a bit of a problem with. Not because it was an alliance, but more so just like two of them were in the three that I mentioned I didn't like. So she didn't really seem to, I guess, create her own identity, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I would say, to add on to that, I would throw Whitney in there as well. Part of it is a spoiler reason, so I'm not going to say why. I would say continue to watch until the reunion. There's actually a reunion episode that aired today along with the finale. Part of it is that as well, but also in the show, like the comments she made about Dylan in the show that George like had a problem with. I was like, yeah, it's kind of unnecessary to talk about him like that, even if he wasn't the most entertaining or like didn't leave the biggest impression. You're kind of talking a little disrespectful on him, even if it wasn't intentional. It was like, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. But she didn't seem like a bad person. She's just kind of annoying, and I would throw Mandy in there as well, but it's just like for similar reasons. And it's also because they're spending a lot. And here's where we can transition into that, like the spending versus saving, like the people who are the spending police versus the people who are just spending constantly. And it's one thing if you want to spend, but just own it. Like they try to justify their spending, like, oh, but if I do this, like, oh, if I spend 30, I don't want to spoil everything, but let's say like they're just buying stuff in the shop. And then they try to justify it like, oh yeah, I'm doing this for the group, or I'm going to share my meal upgrade. They're upgrading their meal every single day. They couldn't go one day or one meal eating the rice and beans. Like, it's just crazy. And just own it. Like, just straight up own it. Like, that's just the most annoying thing to me. And like, I don't mind. Like, season 1, I think it's worth going back and watching season 1. Season 1 has some fun characters. And there's the people who were spending, and sure, that's annoying to an extent, but like they were owning it, and it was funny because like at least they make characters out of it. There was like one character named Specs who's like constantly ordering sweets, and he's like or candy we call it, and he's like addicted to sweets. And he's like a grown man, he's like 50, and he can't stop ordering packets of sweets. And there's like another guy named Castillo who was like addicted to Fanta Light, and like he just kept going back into the stores like, can I please confirm Fanta Light, brev? And he just kept going back in and buying more and more Fanta Light. And like he wasn't like ashamed about it or like trying to justify his like, oh yeah, this is for the greater good. Like he's like, nah, I just want my Fanta, bro. And he was going and hiding it. Like that's more entertaining. This was like, I don't know, maybe the part where they were hiding it in the gym, like that's something, but it was just kind of annoying, I'm not gonna lie. And just generally the whole, and we can transition this into the spending versus saving, the whole like lack of reality. I know it is a show, so to an extent you have to create content, so I can understand why some of them were like, even though we know this is the wrong thing to do, we're going to spend, because it creates the dynamics that make it interesting. But just some of the things they were spending on, just it was just crazy to me. And I think that's the point of the show. They're supposed to get you upset. But like I said, when they're trying to justify it, then that's when it gets kind of annoying. Versus like, and then there's the others who are like the spending police. Like Cinder was spending police. Patrice was not having it, bro. For any spending, Patrice was on their necks. But it was just funny. I say George also wasn't really liking the spending. He wasn't as much of a like on top of them about it. But what did you think about like the whole concept of the show, I guess, with the spending, the shop? Obviously losing money in the challenges, that's part of it. That's kind of standard. But then like the temptations, like things like that, I think it's an interesting concept, and you can really see like the dynamics between those who want to spend and those who don't want to spend, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's similar to how I don't know. You kind of, like I said, I had previous introductions to a lot of the cast members, but just seeing like their spending habits sometimes, like you mentioned, left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. It's kind of like, if I had to compare this show to anything, it's kind of like when you're, granted, I didn't experience this much in boarding school. I feel like I experienced this more in college. But when you hang around with people long enough and like you see the way they live, and you're kind of like, man, like I did not know that about you. And honestly, that shifts my opinion on who you are as a person. Obviously, in this context, I'm talking about it in a negative sense. But I know I mentioned Whitney's spending habits. I think you mentioning Mandy was also a really good example of someone who, like you said, didn't really own their spending habits. And I think PK was like a prime example of that too. Like doing it behind people's back. I thought it was funny at first, but then when he kind of just tried to like shove it in Mandy's face, act like Mandy was the biggest spender, and then would go off and continue to like, you know, like buy chocolate and sneak it around. Like it got to a point where I was a little bit like upset by that. And I also understand being around people who are the spending police, that can get annoying, especially when the way they deliver it, it's kind of like, you know, I feel like they have that very like paternal voice, you know, like why are we spending this much on this, like, you know. I feel like I see George, I see Patrice doing that, but I would also have moments where I would see Cinna as well kind of jump into that, and I was like, okay, cool, like again, character development, I like it. So I understand it's a very tough balance you kind of have to strike, and it seems like they came to a bit of an agreement on what the budget would be, on the daily spending budget would be, but it looks like there just wasn't really much of a follow through or good execution on maintaining that budget. So seeing how much they were spending, they would keep referencing throughout the season, like the reason why people are spending so much is because they're not seeing the physical dollar bills being deducted from the overall prize. They just see it as like fake money and just see it as like numbers on the screen. I thought that was a really good point. So I don't know. I think I was not one to judge someone's spending habits too crazy, but when it came to, hey, I'm doing this for the sake of the group, and it's clearly like, no, you did, like, stop, you know, like you can notice when someone's not being as honest. Like that's when I think I have a problem with it. So it's like honesty and transparency is really all I was kind of looking for, and I felt like a lot of people really showed their true colors when it came to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the Monopoly money thing that kept coming up was like, and it was similar in season 1, where like only when it comes down to the end do people really start to grasp that this is actual money. Like once you realize, oh, I'm in the finals, or like this money could actually be mine tomorrow, then they're like, damn, there's only however much money left, and I spent 10K on a goddamn teddy bear or something. I'm like, damn, like that's crazy. Like it only starts to hit you at that point. But at the beginning of the week, where you're like, especially some of the people, they say it in the show too, which really annoys me. Like when they're like, oh, when someone asks them like, oh, you're really gonna spend this much on this? Like you could not spend this and you could win it at the end. They're like, oh, but only one person's winning, and that's if that's not me, then of course I'm gonna want to spend like 10K on this random thing that doesn't even matter. And like that mindset is probably the most annoying part of the show. But I will say, in defense of PK, and the only reason he's not in my bottom 3 is, for me, he's probably, other than DDG, I'll say DDG as well impressed me with this, is that they're probably the 2 most strategic players of the season. And as someone who watches like shows like Big Brother, like I really appreciate that social strategy aspect, like both being able to play both sides. I feel like both of them were in the best position for most of the season. I'm not going to spoil how it ends, but they were kind of both, like DDD is like with the Americans, but he's also kind of like, I would say that third wheel, fourth wheel with like the PK, Maya, Whitney, Mandy. Like he's kind of, especially when one of them goes out, he's kind of like, if anyone else is going to survive out of the rest, it's going to be him. And I felt like PK was also, he's in that alliance, but he's also cool with Cinna. He's cool with Jason. and he's cool with DDG. So he's kind of playing both sides, and I can appreciate that, especially when you see like the chocolate thing you're talking about, when he plants the chocolate in Mandy's locker. And obviously that didn't actually work out. Like no one believed him that actually is what happened. But then seeing how who he ends up taking out later when he's like sitting with Patrice, and how they're discussing who we're going to take out, and then he flips it into getting out a certain person, which you wouldn't have thought he would want to get out up until that episode, because technically they were in an alliance together. But he was like, he recognized, okay, these three people are a strong block, and right now I'm the fourth wheel. But if I can take out this person, now I'm in the strong three going forward. And I thought that was a really smart move, that in a show like this, I think right now, because it's only obviously season 2, the strategy side of it is still very much like in its infancy. But seeing how that can develop as the seasons go on is something I'm going to keep an eye on. I'm very interested in that. And I thought that was a genius move, honestly. Like maybe I don't even know how much people recognize how smart that move was. So that's the reason why I would have PK somewhere in the middle instead of like actively disliking him. But I can understand if that's not as appealing to you as a part of the show, then him doing all like the silly shenanigans does get annoying. I'm not gonna lie.
I see that. I honestly did see that he had also kind of gone on everyone's good side as well, and that's a really good point. I also do, to an extent, appreciate the ability to play the game, because, and I don't want to spoil too much, but you see that there becomes a point where like he no longer is seen as someone who needs to be taken out by the whole group. Like he kind of falls into the good graces of the entire cast. And one of my favorite moments in the show, or in the season so far, is when he kind of confronts Jason. He's like, why'd you tell Whitney that you should be careful with me? Or why'd you tell, I think that's what it was. And then Jason kind of has this like blank stare on his face, and he's kind of like, you're right, but I just kind of like said that because I just wanted to like like, I don't know, he couldn't really stand on anything, but he was like, I was just saying that, man. Like, I don't know.
I think he didn't realize in the moment. He was just yapping, and I think he didn't realize, oh snap, this is an actual game being played. And PK, I think, was always thinking strategically, even though I think he pretended like he wasn't coming in. I think Jason in that moment was like, oh snap, like if I don't fix up, this could actually get me eliminated. And I wasn't actually thinking that far ahead. I think that's where it kind of the switch flips for Jason as well, which was an interesting scene.
Yes, it's so funny because his eyes kind of widen and he kind of has this little pause. He's like, oh, he just like has no backbone and completely folds.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I understand what you mean. I'm not mad at that. Like I said, PK was in my good graces at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I just, alliances can always be tough, man. Alliances can always be tough, especially when they seem to always they seem to just follow one another, you know. When loyalty becomes like a reason for your votes, it's like I understand it, but at the same time, as a viewer who is not in the environment, who is not in the cast, right, the loyalty factor can be a little bit of a hard thing to connect with, you know, because it's like I understand that y'all are friends, but sometimes as a viewer, like, you want the more logical approach of like, hey, this person makes sense to eliminate, so, you know, obviously you should choose that person. But then someone who's very close with that person will say no because they're my friend. So, you know, it's interesting to me, but it's I don't know. I think at the end of the day, everyone has, you see different sides of everybody. You see different sides, and in the end, it just makes for great and entertaining TV. So in the end, you know, it's been a very interesting show to watch.
It's a good way to wrap it up, especially because this wasn't even a planned topic. If I had known you'd watch it, I would have actually put it on the list. But it's actually good that this has ended up happening. But I know we got a lot more to get through, so you could transition to the next topic.
Oh man, word. All right, man. Well, first order of business. Like, we just didn't finish that up. But I guess next topic, Alexi, do you want to introduce this segment?
Yeah, man. I'll talk. So we got A Ma Maniere dropping some new shoes, and not just shoes, but they got Nike shoes dropping as well as a clothing collection. But the main focus is the Jordan 3 that's coming out. If you don't know, A Ma Maniere is a boutique shop that has collaborated with Nike so many times. I mean, I'm willing to say at least 5-6 times at this point. And this time they're dropping another 3. They've previously dropped them in like black with brown accents, white with brown and gray accents, and now we got these ones which are primarily white with some gray and blue accents. And for me personally, these are one of the best 3s I have seen in a very, very long time. I know I said that about the 4s last time we talked about those brick by bricks. I'm saying it about the 3s now. These are fire. I need a pair. I'm in the raffle. I'm probably going to lose the raffle, but these go crazy. And I'm curious what you guys think about these, as well as if you have thoughts on the other shoes. They got an Air Max 95, then an all black Air Force One, which, you know, has its connotations.
What I will say, I have a problem with this sneaker, and it's tough because I usually like A Ma Maniere collabs. I usually am a fan of what they're able to pull off, and this is a very simple colorway. Like, I don't hate it. I want to make that very clear, but I think maybe it is just like I have an issue with a lot of white threes where it kind of just the color blocking just doesn't really sit right with me. This specific drop, I think my issue is like, I don't know if you guys have ever thrown in like dirty sneakers into either the washer or like you just do a deep cleanse and like they kind of come out a little bit like maybe not discolored, but like
you don't like the cream accents is what I'm hearing.
No, the cream accents I do not have a problem with. I would say it's like the black little heel tab. It just looks, I don't know, it just doesn't look appealing.
It looks really like a nice suede, like a dark gray suede. It's so clean.
I don't know. If those who've ever thrown in some sneakers into the washer, don't ask me why that's happened. You know, Latino household, bro. I also would ask the same questions, but sometimes, you know, whatever, right? Point is, I just don't like the way it looks. Like it really don't have anything beyond that. Just like the white and black on the upper, it just doesn't really sit right with me. And it's simple. That I shouldn't really have an issue with it, but I think I'm a fan of like the black cement 3s. I do like the true blue 3s, but those also have some elephant print. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just like it's too simple for me and it just doesn't have enough of a pop. Whereas I feel like an iconic silhouette like the 3 does need that little like elephant print. But that's just me.
I'm curious what you think of their previous pair. I just sent an image on Discord, but that was very kind of black cement 3 reminiscent, I would say, where it has these similar details of like gray suede, but it's more of a focus of primarily being black and brown. I'm curious if that makes a difference to you, because for me, these are standout just with that hit of blue, and just the colors I feel like just flow together so well. I think it's simple, it's nothing crazy, but I think they work together really well, and that's enough for me. It doesn't need to pop out or have a distinct feature. I like how it almost seems like you could wear these with any outfit.
Okay, interesting. I think this white pair is better than the black pair you sent.
The white pair is fire. That sold out and like the resale was crazy.
I honestly like, and this is weird, but like I was more of a fan of the women's collab they had, where it was kind of like gray and there was like a little bit of like a brownish.
Yeah, that one. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But it's like a white sneaker, right?
Yes, that was the first 3 they did.
Yes, that one I actually preferred, and I would
that's the best.
I would say that one was like very unique, and I obviously love the cream heel tab. I thought that was like a nice touch right there. I like the compliments of like cream with white, then you have a light gray, then you have a bit of like I guess you could say like a brownish accent as well, like on the bottom of the sneaker. I think that all flowed well. But when you add some blue to this, maybe you know what this is as well, and I said this about the brick by bricks. If you took away the A Ma Maniere logo on the tongue, this looks like a GR release, and there's nothing wrong with looking like a GR release, but if I saw this sitting at a sneaker store, I would completely just walk past these. But because they have the A Ma Maniere logo and they have that stamp, obviously it does add a little bit more of a pop to the sneaker, but it's just not enough for me to say like, man, I am a fan of these. Like if I had to give these an honest rating out of 10, I would give them like a 6.5, which is interesting because it's like I said, want to reiterate, not an ugly sneaker. It just doesn't really do much for me. It just doesn't, like, I wouldn't be driven to want to pair myself. But I do understand and I do accept that, yes, like this works, this fits. It's just not enough to really, like, I guess you could say, like, send me over the edge.
Fair enough. I respect your take. Dre?
It's funny, you know. When we started this segment, I was looking at them and I was like, yeah, I don't mind these. Although I would say every photo in this page they have, basically with like all like the photo shoot photos and stuff, they look different in almost every photo, low key. But especially compared to like the 3D model they have up there. But the shade of blue, I like a lot. And I was like, you know what? I kind of like these. But then like the more I looked at them, the less they were like calling to me. And then you sent a picture of the other ones, the black ones with like I guess the brown hits or whatever color that is. And well, it looks kind of purplish too. But
yeah, it's those, like a purple brown.
Yeah, those I was like, I don't know. And then looking at the original one, I remember these original ones, even though I wasn't even tapped in like that. Like I remember seeing these everywhere. And now looking at these, I think on feet, 3s always look a little better. But like just looking at the image of these, I'm like, I don't know. And like now I'm realizing I don't know how much I really like 3s, which may be a blasphemous thing to say. I know 3s are one of those legendary silhouettes for Jordan, but I'm not gonna act like it's a 2 or anything. But I'm now really looking at just like the shape of the 3 and like
that could be that's a valid concern though, because I mean they change the shape from time to time, like every few years.
I used to really like them, but I don't know. Yeah, this current shape, I don't know.
I will agree. Now that you've brought my attention to that, the shape does look a bit different. I don't know if it actually is, but
it looks more like a 2 than it used to. I'm not gonna lie.
It seems like the heel portion is a bit higher than normal, or like something about that. I don't know.
Agreed. Like when I'm looking at it from a side profile, that heel is like sticking up, and yeah, it just really is reminding me of 2s right now, which is not something you want. I guess
not something you want.
Yeah, but it's not something you want to be compared to, really. And I guess it makes sense. Obviously, they're not going to be too far from a 2 because obviously it was the next model. But yeah, now the more I'm looking at them, especially a white, for me, it's really hard to sell me on a white Jordan, especially something that's I'm sure the price of these is gonna be up there. And it's really hard to sell me on them because I don't keep my sneakers the cleanest. So it's gonna have to be some other color for me. And speaking of, looking at like this whole release, I'm way more interested in these 95s personally.
The 95s are clean.
I really like those, especially in the photos. I'm really liking the way they look on feet, and especially also as someone who sticks to a pretty strict rotation of black, navy, or like gray pants.
This fits it all.
I was like, this is the perfect shoe.
I was gonna say these are kind of your style. Like I could see you rocking these for sure.
Like definitely, I already have a pair of 95s as well, but those are they're like a rose kind of color, so it's not as easy to wear like as often. But these, I could see myself wearing these like pretty consistently. So I don't know. I'm way more interested in looking to get a pair of these. I'm
Yeah.
sure they're still going to be tough to get just because the A Ma Maniere hype is real. But I don't know. I like those a lot more. The Black Forces though, like, what are y'all doing, bro?
Yeah,
Really?
Black Forces, those didn't need to happen. I mean, these look like, talk about looking like a GR. Like, these look like those GRs that sit at the mall on sale for $60. Like, not even a full black Air Force One, but like with the little trims and everything. I am not messing with those. But yeah, the 95s are sick. Not necessarily, like, they're a bit dark for me. I don't like a darker midsole. Like, if that were like maybe a lighter color, like a cream, I could get with these, but because it is all kind of like dark hues, it just doesn't fit my style. But I hope this collab is a sign to come of more Air Max 95s dropping, because
Yes,
I do feel like that shoe as a silhouette is just super underrated and underutilized. And
agreed.
I hope they can, drop some more collabs, maybe bring some hype to the model, and then bring us some good GR colorways.
I like that. And you know what it is, y'all? Like, I think it really does come down to, well, if we're gonna transition back to the threes real quick, I think it really does come down to like the lack of details. I think Jordan threes, for me, there needs to be some elephant print for me to like them. Call me old school if you want, but I just found like the fire red pair. If you just look up Jordan 3 Fire Red from 2013, those have a very similar vibe to this one. And it's just, instead of the blue that you get in this pair, you get red. And it gives that same, like, simple, but just doesn't do enough for me to, like, want to purchase that sneaker. And I think that's what this sneaker does. It just doesn't, there's not much to it. And maybe people like simplicity, but for me, the 3 is iconic. I think when you take away the iconic element of the elephant print, I don't think much is left. So I definitely see when Dre says, like, I'm not sure how I feel about the whole 3 silhouette as a whole. Like, I can see that this does kind of make it look a little bit more bulky. I don't know. It just makes it look a little bit less wearable.
It could be a little optical illusion type thing, like without that print, it just looks bigger. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny y'all say that though, because I remember these Fire Red 3s dropping. This is like back when I was more into sneakers, and at the time I liked them. Like, I liked elephant print, I liked 3s, but even now, like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe just right now as we're recording, I'm not feeling elephant print, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like, maybe that's also a blasphemous thing to say, but I know elephant print is iconic. But I think Jordan as a brand has run elephant print into the ground.
I agree.
Like
I'm on that page.
All those, like, I forget what they call these type of shoes, like Team Jordan type shoes, or like, I'm trying to think of like a silhouette, but like those off silhouettes that kind of combine some elements of like the actual retro lineup that no one actually really likes. Like, you used to show up to school with that in middle school, and people would be like, "Nah, you're like, these ain't real Jordans, bro. Like, these are like the low." I'm trying to think of an example of a silhouette. I can't remember one off the top of my head, but all of those. See, you said what?
I said you can call them the Mexican Jordans if you really want to. I know
pretty much, like pretty much. And I feel like most of those though used to spam elephant print because they knew that's what people liked. Or at least that's part of what was iconic about like 3s. And I think that has kind of like made me a bit sour on elephant print in general.
I'm curious. I'm sending this in the chat right now. I'm curious what you think of this, because this was a more GR release, which has that print, but also color-wise, to me, is something that looks like what an A Ma Maniere collab would be. I'm curious what you think of this, because I think it would speak a lot to this conversation. And for our listeners, I'm showing off the Jordan 3 Craft Ivories, which dropped in 2024.
Yes, and I agree with you. This does give more A Ma Maniere vibes. Give me these over the upcoming A Ma Maniere release.
They're cheaper on the resale than the A Ma Manieres, I think, will be.
It's just like the colors makes more sense together. You have a very minimalistic light gray. You have the cream, and I love cream. I love gray. So these just fit that, and it just works. It just works. It's not quite like gum bottoms on the bottom of the sneaker, but it does give a little bit of that vibe. It's kind of like, also it reminds me of the off-white Jordan 4s as well that came out a few years back. It does give a little bit of that vibe. And then the Nike Air and then the Jumpman on the heel tab. These are nice, man. They even put me onto these. I did not know these were.
Dude, it's a good market, honestly, to buy threes, because the Fear threes, bro, I just looked these up on Go. These are going for like 150 in my size, bro. I might need to pull the trigger. That is one of the best threes of all time, in my opinion.
I don't love these, man. These are disgusting, bro. Unless these were called like the New York Knicks Jordan 3s, I would feel a little bit better about them, but I'm not.
Maybe because I these were like one of the first threes I really liked when I got into sneakers, so maybe it's a little nostalgia thing.
And that gradient is diabolical. I ain't gonna lie. That gradient is crazy.
Maybe like the Jordan 3 Phoenix Suns. Like, I don't know, but this is just not. This does not
I
do
think
it.
the elephant print, like I may just be off elephant print, except for the craft ivory, the ones you just sent, because it's like a light gray, and then like the white on it. Yeah, it's a little more subtle. I can appreciate that. Like if I see that down the block, that doesn't stand out to me as much. Like you have to actually be up close and see that, versus like a lot of them other elephant print, just like it just sticks out. But threes low-key looking like Team Jordan to me now, bro. Like this is crazy. I don't know what's going on. Like I never had this feeling before about threes, but we might have to. We mentioned this maybe like episode 2 or something. But next time we have a slow week, we may have to do like that ranking of like the Jordan lineups. You just like do our ranking.
That would be good. That would be good.
We gotta do those, because now I'm feeling how I felt even like a month ago or 2 months ago when we talked about it. I'm feeling way different now about where I might put threes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through the colorways right now, just kind of reminiscing, and I'm having a similar feeling. Definitely. I technically only have one pair of threes. They're like the denim threes, where it's like the areas that are elephant print are like denim with that print on them. Semi-Japanese inspired, but I don't know, man. Let us know in the comments what y'all are thinking about threes.
How are you feeling about
these A Ma Manieres?
The last thing I will say before we wrap up, just like since we're talking elephant print, I don't know, man. I personally will just vouch for the elephant print and say I am still all for the design. I just sent, these aren't Jordan 3s, but I sent some Nike SB Dunk Lows, the Atmos elephants, or the, I believe that's what they're called. I guess they're called the Dunk Low elephants. But they have that little, like the teal swoosh and then just elephant print all around. I understand that these are not really for the times right now, but these are still one of my grails, man. And I will always find this sneaker. I guess like this will always be a grail for me. I don't care. It works for me. I'm not gonna be off of the print. Like I said, call me old school, but these are my speed.
Man.
Okay, about like
those are the grails you see at Walmart, man. These are not grails.
About like a minute ago, I was like, how, like, what's going on? I'm not sure. Like, I feel like I'm off elephant print, but like I need to really sit on it. Once you sent these, I'm 100% off elephant print, bro. What the hell is this, bro?
That's wild, man.
This is crazy. You want to talk about? I think a few weeks ago we were talking about hit the crack pipe. This is like hit the meth, bro. This is like 8 Mile. Like we were. I don't know. This is like crazy chill, bro. This is crazy chill.
These do look like someone who's like doing Showtime on the New York City subway.
These are definitely the Showtime.
This is the dude who doesn't get away from the court, man. He's always trying to run another game, bro. Like go home, bro. Like. Come on.
Man.
Nah.
Nah. If there's any OG sneakerheads out there, I know there's people with me, man, but I'm not even trying to be that like old school guy. These just, I don't know. These will always be fire to me.
That's fair, and I can recognize that it may be a bit of blasphemy coming for elephant print, but it just hit me today. Like I'm like, damn, it's not really hitting the same.
Understood. Okay. Cool, man. Cool. By the way, last thing I will say, okay, for real, those black Air Force Ones, they're not bad. They're not bad. Do I think the A Ma Maniere branding? No. I think if you told me those were like some cactus plant flea markets, I would be more like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I don't hate these. Are they enough to like want to buy them?
How do these remind you of the CPFMs?
No, they just give more CPFM like branding vibes. It just like the way the swoosh kind of pops out the.
Oh, I can see that actually.
You know, like it's.
I see what you're saying now. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I disagree, but I see it.
I don't know. They work. Are they enough for me to want to buy them? No, but I do like when Air Force Ones have a little bit of like a different. I know there was the Love You Forever pair, like the Drake Air Force Ones, the Supreme Air Force Ones. I never will buy a pair for myself, but they're cool to look at. But that's about it.
The Millie Bobby Brown ones. All right.
Crazy. For legal reasons, that was a joke. Okay, let's.
I will say, before we move on, next topic, little side topic. Just browsing the A Ma Maniere site, bro. I just sent this to y'all, man. Jerry, I'm sorry, bro, but you got to start moving units, man. You got to start selling out your shoes. You've been working years on this Adidas collab. Fear God Athletics, bro. You only got like 2 sizes, 3 sizes sold out, man.
This is bad.
I like your design.
Understandably, bro. Understandably.
This colorway is not it. This colorway is not it.
Really?
The shoe itself, I think, is okay. Like I think it's a good canvas, but the paint's used, man, on this pure beige pair. Not it.
Nah.
Off topic, but I know we talked about Jerry before, so I had to give the
we
update.
haven't talked about him again for a reason, man. Fix it.
I'm not a Jerry Lorenzo like apologist, but I don't hate these, but this is not a good look as far as just how. Yeah, what is it? The 8.5s, the 10s, and the 13s, which is like, yes, you would normally see those sold out. That's like there's no size 8 and 9s and 9.5s just sitting. That's a really bad look.
The normal regular sizing, like big sizes sitting, is especially on not even the Adidas site, on like a regular retail site where they don't take them down and say sold out to give the illusion they sold out. Like these are pairs actually sitting out in the wild that people can easily get, and they're choosing not to.
Yeah, I'm not dropping the 190 on this, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I would.
If I saw these for a little quick 15, maybe.
That's insane. I would.
These to me, these look like a regular Adidas basketball shoe to me. And all of those shoes are sick and go for like 120, 115, 110. So
Fair.
To ask 190 for another basketball shoe because it's got the Fear of God name, but it's in a Buns colorway, doing too much.
I don't hate these. But hey, agree to disagree.
It's like the fake Yeezy Belugas, bro. Anyways.
The Belugas. Okay. Cool, man. Man, by the way, if there's any sneakerheads out there listening, please let us know in the comments, man. Please let us know who you're rocking with, because I feel like we all have different takes, different tastes. So we want to hear.
I want all the smoke. All the smoke, man. Come at me for the elephant print take. Come at me for the 3 take. I want all the smoke, and I will respond. So,
even me, man. I said what I said, man. I said what I said. But cool, man. All right. Next topic. Happy March Madness to all those who celebrate. One thing that we did want to touch on was just like the viral sensation that has been Amir Khan of McNeese State. I think the first time I saw him was when he was kind of walking out with the McNeese State basketball team, and just seeing like the amount of like just the energy of the team just rolling behind him, and just like the confidence he was walking with, just like a sick clip, and he was just walking out. For those who may not be familiar, Amir Khan is the student manager of the McNeese basketball team, a D1 basketball team that had earned a spot or punched a ticket to March Madness. They have recently been eliminated from the tournament, so they are no longer in contention. However, Amir Khan and, well, firstly, I will say the head coach of the team, Will Wade, announced that he was headed to NC State after McNeese State was eliminated from the tournament, which I'm like, man, that was such a quick turnaround. But it was then announced that this viral sensation, Amir Khan, is now joining Will Wade to head over to NC State, which I think is crazy. Like, this is a student manager who has made upwards of 6 figures in NIL deals, which, like, man, get your money, man, get paid. I love to see it. I was looking on social media and I did see that he had a number of sponsorships. Looks like he has Buffalo Wild Wings, Tops, Insomnia Cookies. He has his own like card, which I think is like insane. TurboTax, like I'm just like, what? Like he's just
TurboTax.
He is just killing it, man. Like I'm just like, bro, this is
which
amazing.
is crazy because I never heard of this dude in my life. I mean, I'm not tapped into March Madness or culture like that, but I haven't seen him once on TikTok or anything. So the fact he's getting these deals and is this big, crazy.
Yeah, I think it's just like people saw that little walkout video with the team and just saw that the energy that the team was coming with, and it's usually like he'll be wearing like a stereo or this like big like radio, and then he'll be wearing jewelry on the sidelines, and he's usually rapping along to whatever walkout song they're with, and it's just cool, man. My NBA fans out there, I said fans, my NBA fans out there, this does give me a little bit like Memphis Grizzlies vibes from a few years back, where you had John Morant and Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., like when they were kind of on their like little villain run, and they just came out with that energy. This is kind of the vibe that this gives me. So, man, firstly, I do want to say, before we get into the little side question I wanted to get into, I mean, Alexi kind of got into this, but like, if y'all could speak on whether or not you've seen this around or like seen this on social media. If so, what are your reactions? Just anything just initial thoughts.
And man, he hit the social media jackpot. That's all I'm gonna say, dude. Like, he's got his 15 minutes of fame and he's using it accordingly, getting his bag. So I can only respect it.
Yeah, fair. I mean, next thing you know, we're gonna see him with the next freaking Talk to a podcast, bro. He's gonna be out there.
New meme coin.
The token, like the 1 pound fish token, like that's just crazy. If you know that reference, then you're really tapped into the culture. But yeah, I literally never heard of this guy before this weekend. Like I'd seen him popping up, I guess before, or I guess after maybe they got their upset win on like ESPN's YouTube, but I had no idea what was going on. I kept seeing Amir Khan, and I was confused because the Amir Khan I know is like a British boxer with like fast hands. So like I was very confused what was going on. Like why this thing Amir Khan is with
this dude does not look like he's got hands like that
at all. They're probably the same height though, but at all. But fair play. I didn't even know you could get an NIL deal as a manager. Like I don't even know how any of this works. This all sounds kind of shady. I ain't gonna lie, but hey, get your bag. Like I ain't gonna hate. Maybe I did go apply to be a manager at some team, bro, because apparently you get an NIL deal. So. Hey man, although I don't understand though, he's a student manager and he's transferring schools to stay with the coach. Like, what kind of relationship is that, bro? I don't know. That sounds kind of weird too. I
ain't gonna lie. Also, like, I don't mean any disrespect, but I'm just watching video of him right now, and like, he looks like you put a 45-year-old man in a 20-year-old's body. Like that's the only way I can describe it, bro. Like somehow he looks mad mature, but also like baby face, like those JD Vance memes. Like there's something,
Like
there's
the
something
manager of
going on.
Buffalo
Here.
Wild Wings, bro.
Nah.
I'm not trying to violate, man. I'm not trying to violate.
No, okay. What I will say to answer Dre's question
That's
about
just my first reaction from seeing a video. I'm sorry. Continue.
That's cool. That's cool. But to get to Dre's question about like how does he get to transfer to NC State, he has been with the team for 4 years. So obviously this is what's been popping off on social media. This past tournament, I am not super familiar with what his he's been manager of the team for 4 years, so would assume that he's graduating this year. And I just don't really know what the if he had previous walkouts with them, what maybe drove them to want to maybe include him in this tournament. I'm not really sure, but it looks like he's really tight with the team. And what I will say, man, this is any sports fan's dream, man. As someone who I think every kid has those aspirations of being a professional athlete, and then you kind of hit with reality. I feel like this is the next best thing. You're still technically part of the team, and the team is rocking with you, man, and people are just loving your energy. I'm just imagining feeding off of this energy from a home crowd. It's probably got to be just such a fire feeling of you're just going to war with your team, even though you're not even suiting up. All you have to do is just get the team hype, and just that's pretty much all you have to do. Obviously I know manager has more, I guess you could say, responsibilities, but I think this is just this is every hooper's young hooper's dream, man. If I don't make the team, at least let me still rock out with the team, make my money, go viral. This is everything, man. So I'm happy for him. This makes me, you can tell he's having fun. You can tell the team's having fun. So this is a little wholesome headline for me that I just wanted to touch upon. But we'll say now is question for y'all. If you had to pick a professional sports team to walk out with for game day entrances, who would you pick? And do not pick your favorite team, because that would be an obvious one. So who would you pick?
Man, easy, man. Enter Miami FC. Get myself a little selfie with the legends. Messi, Busquets, Sergio. We all set.
That's cool. I respect that. Okay. Drake.
And that's all. I say that because I don't know any other team I'd walk out with. At all. No other team. The hell? I don't know what the hell the Patriots do versus the Dolphins. There's the Giants. I don't know what's different.
Any sport.
Yeah, any sport.
Oh, man. Okay. You just named 3 football teams for some reason. So I thought you were thinking.
Nah. Literally across any sport other than my main teams I care about. Man, I don't know what would be different walking out with them. So.
Where? Oh yeah, okay. Well, I guess I'll go next. Yeah, I was thinking about this too, because you said obviously not your favorite team. I think I'd go. This one's literally impossible because I'm not from New Zealand, but I'd go with the New Zealand rugby national team, because they come out and do the haka, whole traditional thing where they hit all that, bro. Get me in there, bro. I will learn the choreography. Get me in there. I will come out and lead the haka, bro. That will be lit. I ain't gonna lie, that. The feeling after that, I don't care if they go on to win or lose, bro. Just the feeling after that would be amazing. I'm not gonna lie. So maybe I have to go get my New Zealand citizenship to do that, but I would want to do that for sure.
Okay, I respect that. Dang, okay, I like that. I would personally, and this is such a funny pick to me, but the Charlotte Hornets, man, I don't care how bad they are. This has got to be.
No, I know why.
This has got to be one of the swaggiest teams out there. I don't care if they get blown out by 30, 40, or 50, bro. But if I could just walk out, and then there's who's on the team? There's LaMelo, there's Miles Bridges, there's Brandon Miller, there's Trey Mann, who's kind of has this AI kind of style as of late. He's been wearing baggy clothes on the court, cornrows, the headband. I don't know. This is just like a team that just has the look, not necessarily the talent or playing style to get them anywhere. They're currently the 14th seed in the Eastern Conference, so they're at the bottom of the barrel. But I do not care, man. And I also think that the Hornets jerseys are one of the best looking ones in the entire league. So this just checks many boxes for me. I would pick the Charlotte Hornets.
Fair enough. I not gonna lie, I thought you were gonna. I was silent because first I was like, bro, who cares about the goddamn Hornets? But you laid out some good reasons, and I thought you were gonna say because they're probably listening to Tweaker in the locker room. So I thought you were gonna say you wanted to just jam out to that song or something. But your reasons were actually better than that. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know if those are good enough reasons, but they just, also like, man, we just can't skip over the fact, man, Amir Khan has made upwards of 6 figures just doing this. So
that's crazy. How does that even work? Like, not even to hate, like 100%. I'm trying to be like you, bro. Like, how does that even work? How do you get NIL deals as a manager? Like, I don't know exactly how the structure works, but I thought it was strictly like an athlete thing. But I guess anyone can get it. I guess.
Yeah, I know you were joking about like him having his own podcast, but I really do want to see him on some podcast because I really do want to get put up on game. I really do want to know how someone does this. And
like lay out the playbook.
It took 4 years. It took 4 years to build this. Alexi was pointing out. I believe this is before the recording, but the cheerleaders, they even have socks with his face on them.
Yeah,
man. It's just like, how do you get to this point, man?
Industry plant, man. That's how. Ain't no cheerleader being like, guys, let's get the 40-year-old, 20-year-old face on our socks as a team. Ain't nobody doing that with their free will in this world, bro.
Oh man, yeah. Listen,
sorry, Amir. Sorry. All in good jest.
Yeah. By the way, this team also, I know I said they're no longer in the tournament, but they did beat Clemson. It was like the number 5 seed. So they, even before, I know he was popping off before March Madness, but like the fact that this team even got their like little March Madness moment and eliminated a top seed, like props to them, man. This is just, I don't know. To me, we're making jokes. Obviously, we're having fun with it, but this is, to me, at the end of the day, this is a wholesome headline. You got just like good energy around, and this is really what you gotta love. When someone just creates an entire career off of just the vibes and off of the clear passion. It looks like passion to me for the game. So, shout out to him.
Shout out.
But yeah, cool, man. All right. Let's see. I guess, is it cool if I introduce this last point?
Yeah, get into it.
Okay, man. Well, in the world of soccer, we have transitioned into international play, and believe it or not, man, we are taking it over to the North American continent. So we're going to be talking about the CONCACAF Nations League. This past week, we had the semi-final matchups. USA went up against Panama and lost in a 1-0 defeat, or a 1-0 defeat. And then won't be spending much time talking about this, but just for the sake of, just to get the point across, we also have Mexico, who beat Canada 2-0 in their semifinal matchup. So they're actually, at the time of this recording, they're actually currently facing Panama. And I just checked the score, man, and they're up 1-0, man. So shout out my country, man. But all right, what we're here to talk about is the United States performance against Panama. So they, it's funny, in our notes we have just lost third place match as well to Canada. So clearly a bit of a disappointing matchup. This is a very new tournament. I believe this is the 4th annual CONCACAF Nations League tournament, and the US has won all 3 of the previous tournaments, and they've now placed 4th. So any reactions? What are your guys' thoughts on this game? Just wanted to open up the floor.
It's a little shocking given, just to give some context, I've generally been a hater of this team, just in general. I think the standards are so low, and people cheer and act like they're the greatest team in the world, and that you just got to look across the Atlantic and be like, nah, we're bad. We're just bad, straight up. And unfortunately, a new coach in Pochettino isn't going to change that. I think there were some promising moments from the game versus Panama, but at the end of the day, this team still needs a lot of changes, a lot of development, and I think it's going to take some time. And I think, their previous wins in this tournament, I'd say it's luck of the draw.
Okay. Dre?
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Poch looking a little fraudulent right now. I'm not gonna lie, man. Him, his previous job was at my favorite club, Chelsea. I think it was a bit harsh the way he went out there, but I saw him take this job for the U.S. and I was like, this is kind of a bold appointment. Like, the U.S. is kind of punching above their pay grade. Not that Poch has achieved that much recently, but still, or I guess, I don't know, in general, because Spurs didn't actually end up winning anything, but still, he had some pedigree in recent years, and seeing him take this job, I was like, okay, this is an interesting lead up to the World Cup. And obviously, we still have over a year until the World Cup, so things can improve. And also, our starting striker, Balogun, I think that's how you pronounce it, he's been injured for a while, so this isn't necessarily our full strength team, but I don't know. We're not putting any chances away. From what I've seen, it seemed like we had the better the chances, the better the possession, and we just could not finish our dinner. Which maybe that's not on Poch. Maybe that's on the team, the players. But
definitely on one dude, bro. What's his? Was it Agaimang? I
hope
might
so,
be butchering that name.
If not,
but that dude in the clips I saw fumbled multiple game winners. So
yeah,
I just got to point that out.
It's unfortunate, especially now losing the third place match as well. Not that necessarily means that much, but we're just going out sad. And the fact that we're hosting next year, we're hoping at least that we could put some kind of run together. No one expects the U.S. to win. No one expects us to even reach a semi, probably not even a quarterfinal. But if we can pull off some kind of dream run to even reach a quarterfinal at home, that will be enough. Like, I think more than anything, this World Cup needs to be used to put U.S. soccer on a platform. And I know that we're already starting to see some of that talent come through and play in Europe and stuff like that from years ago. But more than anything, we need this to kickstart something that in the next 10, 15 years, we're seeing the U.S. team become a real force. No one expects us to be a force right now. And if we can't put something together for this World Cup, it's really not a good sign. I think America is really ready, especially with like some of the legends who, like you mentioned earlier, like coming over to the MLS and stuff. I think America's ready to really adopt soccer as like one of our bigger sports, but it's just a switch that still needs to be flipped. And I think the World Cup could be that. But if this is the type of performance we're going to go into that competition with, then it's cooked, bro. It's really cooked. So I'm hoping that we come better with something in the future. We still have some time to work through it, but yeah, this is really disappointing from what I saw. But I will say, to be fair to Panama, they didn't have that many shots, but when it counted the most, almost the last kick of the game, they got it in. It was a brilliant finish, although looking at the highlight, it looked like the U.S. definitely could have closed that down. That was just terrible defending.
He should have saved that. That was terrible defending. Like,
yeah,
they had that same shot against Panama too, and he fumbled the shot. So
just the quality in those moments. But the guy who scored for Panama, Waterman, I think his name is Cecilio Waterman. He actually, when he scored, he ran over to the CBS desk where Thierry Henry was there, like covering the game with like Dempsey and Kay Abdo and someone else, I forget. And and he ran over. Like, he scored. He immediately saw Henry, ran over there, and like went over to him, and he said, pardon my pronunciation, Eric, you can clean this up for me. But he's like, "Tu eres mi ídolo," or something like that. Like, you are my idol. And that was a sick moment. Like, he's like in Henry's face, yelling at him, like pointing at him, like, "Tu eres mi ídolo, tu eres mi ídolo," and he's like hugging him, and the whole team comes to join him. They're all hugging Henry at the desk. Like, that's iconic, and I think that was actually really
Wholesome
sick.
shit, man.
Yeah. So shout out to Panama. I'm glad that they even, like, now because of that moment, I'm actually rooting for them to win the final. Obviously, like you said, Eric, now they're down 1-0, and I'm sure you're not rooting for them, obviously, but just because of that story, I thought that was heartwarming. So shout out to Panama.
Beautiful
Absolutely.
game, man.
Yeah, and I guess just like a few more comments on the actual match. The U.S. had, and you guys kind of alluded to this already, but they had several chances to score, and in the first half they had Weston McKennie had like a missed header that could have really been like, that was like a really good scoring opportunity that was surprised didn't go in, and Josh Sargent also had a miss off the post, like I guess it was like the 15th minute or something like that. It was like off of a cross from Pulisic, and he also had an offside goal. So scored the goal, but it was offside, and so it just didn't count, obviously. And this was just like a disappointing performance by the U.S. side. You really expect them. I think in any CONCACAF tournament, you do expect it to come down to U.S. and Mexico. And in this particular match, like, there was no reason why they should have lost this. Obviously, like, happy for Panama, as Dre mentioned, but this is a disappointing result. And the thing about the U.S., man, just to give a little bit more context on just how I feel, I have already voiced my allegiance to Mexico, and right now I'm actually not even like, I've been very clear in the past, like, when my team is not doing well, I kind of get angry and I kind of like distance myself from the team.
Fake fan, man.
Hey, listen, call it what you want, man. I'm just for my mental health. But the Mexican side has been very disappointing ever since. I mean, it was pre 2022 World Cup, but that was like a very disappointing performance just overall. Point is, they haven't really been putting their strongest foot forward, so the U.S. has kind of stepped up in that little timeline. But I always think, like, in my opinion, Mexico is always gonna dominate the CONCACAF. Like, if we do not, then there is something wrong, and clearly there has been something wrong with the past several years. Right now, obviously, they have the upper hand in the final right now. Obviously, anything can happen, but you know, there's no reason why they should lose this tournament, in my opinion. But again, this is just the Nations League. I think something that can be said about both sides, and I'll speak to the American side as well. Like, we have very passionate fan bases where they will really be feeling themselves going into a big tournament like the World Cup, regardless of what they've seen, regardless of the product that's been put forward. And
I'm gonna have to interrupt that, man. There's breaking news from the third place match today, with the US versus Canada, where the stadium was near empty, bro, and it's based in LA. So I do not think, in fact, the US fans will turn up no matter the result, no matter what. I think this is actually a striking rebuke of everything we're saying about the potential for the sport in the US.
I mean, and who's gonna go watch a third? I mean, I would never watch a third.
A lot of countries would go and support their team, though.
We're not at that place yet. I think that's what I'm saying. I think the World Cup is going to be like the determining factor. I think
I don't know how we can expedite that in like a year.
I think honestly, it's going to come down to marketing. Like, I think the Nations League is not pushed that heavily. Like,
it is not
compared to the way the World Cup will be. I'm assuming if they don't, then honestly it would just be a big disappointment, and they just will have fumbled the sport in the country. But I'm assuming the World Cup is going to have an incredible push marketing wise behind it to get people invested. And I think even part of that might even be from the content creator perspective, the amount of content creators getting into soccer as a sport over the last few years, obviously speed leading the forefront, but even recently, like people like Jason and stuff like that, I think honestly them getting the youth into it could also be a part of that push. And I think the World Cup, the timing of it is very crucial. And if they fumble this, then yeah, soccer in the US is good. But I think there's a chance. There is a chance. I think the World Cup is that chance.
There might be a chance, but as of today, March 23rd, it's not looking good, bruv.
I don't know, man. It's a CONCACAF tournament, and it's not even the CONCACAF tournament.
Like, it don't matter what the tournament is what I'm saying. Like, no matter the context, if the national team is playing in your country and you go to any of these other countries in South America, in Europe, in Africa, people gonna turn up, bro. Like, people will turn out to support no matter the context of the match. And so even for a friendly, people will show up. So for a third place match, especially against Canada with all the stuff going on with them today, you know, outside of soccer, you would think people would maybe turn out as any sign for representing their country. And that passion is just, at least in the LA area, is not there.
Yeah, also screw LA. So.
Listen, if Mexico was playing though, and I mean right now they are they playing? Let me check. Are they playing?
If Mexico playing, then yeah, people who are fans of Mexico are gonna turn up.
That's what I'm saying, bro. The Mexican people will always show out, man. So, but that's not even what
yeah, I'm sure the Mexicans will, bro. I'm not doubting that. I'm saying, like, for the Team USA, for people who'd show up for that.
Absolutely. You know? That's fair. Listen, that's fair. And I guess we'll see when the Gold Cup rolls around this summer. I don't know if I'll be tuning in, man. I have newfound hope in the Mexican team now, seeing that they had like a much more convincing showing in this past tournament. I'll be keeping a very distant eye on them. I guess we'll see what the turnout is. I expect the US to have a deep run in the tournament. I want it to be a Mexico-US final. I feel like that's always what's best. So I guess we'll see. But we'll see. We'll see what the turnout is when it comes down to the CONCACAF tournament of I guess it's every 2 years. So we'll see what happens there. But I totally hear you, man. I don't want to just gloss over that. I agree. I think it's weird, man. People will get their head turned if they see that there's hype, if there's some kind of anticipation behind the matchup. Obviously, like Dre said, this is not something that's been pushed all that crazy, but I feel like people are gonna always run to the crowd, and in this case there just isn't really enough of a reason to go ahead and tune into this. So This is, I guess, more a tournament for quote unquote hardcore fans. But regardless, I think we should at least keep an eye on just what the turnout looks like in the Gold Cup. Copa America, for example, which was last summer, had a very nice showing, and granted that was, as thanks to a lot of just the South American fan base that was really showing out. But it's really cool to see the game, how popular it is in the US. It's usually not even by, I guess you could say, quote unquote, American people, people who, but it's still, the money is still made, the money, there's the passion is still there. It really is just a matter of who is really attending these matches, which to me, honestly, man, I don't hate it. Like I said, I've been to a few soccer matches in the US and just seeing the passionate fan base, it's there. But I agree, man. We should expect more from the local side. So time will tell.
Yeah, I think it's for everything, for the national team, for MLS, for even kids who are playing under academies and development. There's there's got to be a lot of change, and it's going to take a lot of time. And unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen in a year. I mean, just talk briefly about the World Cup. Like, you look at what Qatar did for their World Cup. I mean, yeah, they broke a lot of human rights and laws, you know, forcing people to build those stadiums, but they invested in their infrastructure, and that, you know, making sure it was the best possible World Cup for them. I'm not saying in good ways, because clearly they didn't do a morally good job at that, but I've not seen that response from the US, and we're a year out. Like, there's still discussion of how are people going to get to these stadiums, and, you know, how is traffic going to be affected in all these different cities across the country. And I've seen nothing about like planning and accounting for that. So I'm starting to worry it's going to be a shit show, personally.
That's actually very fair. That's very fair. And I've been to MetLife, which is where the final is going to be held, and it is a nightmare.
It is a hassle.
It is so bad. I don't know how the Jets and Giants fans do it during the season. I just don't know how they do it. And you would think, because it's New York, because it's a huge market, there would be a much better infrastructure. It would just be a lot smoother, but it is not. It's actually, I agree, very concerning. You saw what went down in the final last year in the Copa America, where people were sneaking in, and that was down in at Hard Rock in Miami. But it's scary. It really is scary. And you would think, given the resources we have as a country, that it would be, you know, it'd be different, that we would have a much easier, I guess, you know, it'd be a much smoother experience, but clearly it's not. So I'm with you there. I'm 100% with you there.
Yeah, I think it's all fair. And I think it's definitely something we'll have to revisit, like we're saying, after the Gold Cup, whether or not we actually covered the Gold Cup itself, but just like what the outlook's looking like after that. And just like what the discourse is from like the US soccer administration in general after that, and what their plan is. Because if we don't hear something by this summer, then they're leaving themselves too short a window. And then by that point, I'm not going to have faith that it could be the World Cup that we hope it can be. Because honestly, at this point, the US just might be too big a country to host something like that. That honestly might be part of it. That like a lot of these other countries that are traditionally hosts. Oh, well, to be fair, Brazil is a massive country, so I don't know. But we just don't have like the care for it seems, that these other countries do. And I'm hoping that this could be the turning point. But like you're saying, it really would mean that our country would have to care about the sport. And it seems like there's potential for that, but you know,
I don't know, man. The current state of things, this country is being pretty selfish. So for us to care about a sport we don't even call by its correct name.
Well, to be fair, the original name was soccer, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But
actually,
but I will say, the one thing I will say is that because there is so much nationalistic pride right now, I will not say whether or not that's a good thing or not, what that crowd is about generally, but that could potentially lead into more care for just American sports teams in general, which we haven't seen in soccer recently. We saw a lot of it in hockey when they went to go face Canada.
I don't know, man. People can't buy their eggs, man. I don't think they're gonna buy tickets to the World Cup.
You'd be surprised. Priorities are all out of whack, bro.
You think Trump will bring the masses to the games, yo?
Yeah, man. He's gonna say free McDonald's at halftime for everyone. Buy my meme coin, and then
and there it is. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Yo, I knew Alexi was gonna do a Trump impression, and that's literally why I posed the question. I don't know why. I knew I'd bait you into that. That's funny.
He's a smart guy. All right, I'm done.
Fine. Well, yeah, man. Ooh, well, that was officially our last topic. Are there any other final comments from y'all?
You always do this and half cut out because your mic's peaking, but I know what you said. It was hell no. So we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for
That's
watching.
crazy. I never knew it peaked out like that. Good to know.
Only when you do that high pitch, hell no, and everything you always be doing. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Mainly listening. There's no real visuals going on, but we appreciate you as always. A way longer podcast than we expected. Inside was not actually on the docket, but that ended up being a cool topic to talk about. So let us know if you watched that. Let us know, obviously, if you're interested in A Ma Maniere. I can never say that, even though I took French. Let me tap into my French bag. A Ma Maniere. And let us know also if you are following the CONCACAF Nations League glorified friendlies, but what you think about the U.S. soccer outlook in the next year for the World Cup, all that stuff. We're very interested in what you guys have to say. But like I say every week, I'm gonna say it last week, I'm gonna say it next week. We're keeping it going. Tap in. We got a bunch of clips dropping, episodes every week. Lock in with us, man. We're up, rip the net to the moon. So see you guys next week.
Peace.
Absolutely, y'all. Peace out, y'all. Have a good week, y'all.